Hey y'all, if you're looking for a legit place to get cheap MT, go to dvdj.com and use code Popboy for an extra 10% off. What's up y'all, it's your Popboy. You know what time it is? It's time to make our AI teammates smarter. They're less dumb, that'd probably be more appropriate, on defense. Okay, if you've seen the last couple videos, you know we cover pretty much every angle imaginable for on-ball defense in 2K20, just because it's been such a huge problem area this year. Okay, but there's still one last missing piece to the on-ball defense puzzle. We need to make sure that when one of our AI teammates is guarding the ball, that he's doing it in the smartest way possible. Okay, so let's get on it. We're going to start with the on-ball pressure. Number one thing, of course, just like all these other settings, no automatic. The next thing for on-ball pressure, we're never going to smother anybody. I don't care how good of a shooter they might be. I don't care how unathletic they might be. Right? There's no player where it would be beneficial for us to put them on smother this year. Might have been okay in certain situations last year. But this year it's totally different, as we know. The on-ball D is just too much of a problem. The blow-by animations are just too frequent. It's too easy to get sucked into one of them when you're playing that tight. It's just too risky, no matter who it is. Okay, so smother's out. Let's move on to gap. That's also going to be out. There's just too much space for anybody. I don't care how poor of a shooter they are. I don't care how much of a threat to drive they are. Even somebody like Ben Simmons is really nobody we're going to want to put on gap. And here's why. So first of all, it messes with our pick and roll coverage. It makes our pick and roll defenders like go dumb. I don't know. And like right here, I understand you're not going to be able to, you're not in any position to defend any kind of outside shot. And of course you can't do any type of hedging from way down there. So I get that, but they actually do a worse job stopping the drive too, which you wouldn't think would be the case because they're playing off so far, but it is. I don't know. And right here, I don't know what this is. I don't even have the ball handler on gap, right? The only person I have on gap is the screener, Zeller. And they do like some freaking do-si-do. I don't know. They just like run in circles, covering no one, right? Taking away zero options, leaving everybody open. I can't explain it. I could just tell you that you put anybody on gap and weird shit is gonna start happening with your pick and roll coverage. Okay, so besides that, another thing with gap is it messes with our transition defense. Like right here, I know you're on gap, I know you're being told to leave space, but that's really for the half court. You still have to stop the ball in transition, and they just don't do that as well when they're on gap. So it's a no on gap. We don't need this thing. We don't need the problems it creates. Moving on, now let's come take a look at tight. Now we are going to use this setting, but we're going to do it very sparingly. We want to try to avoid using it when possible. And there's a few reasons for that. First of all, the blow-by animations. The tighter we're playing, of course, we're more exposed to that. We're more vulnerable to getting beat off of the drive. And then by the same token, look at this. This is the worst thing about tight. I hate this. So he's coming up to guard him, right? Stop right there. You're good. You're good, man. He's way the hell out there. He's not gonna shoot it from there. If he does, then fine. He ain't gonna make it. So I know you're on tight, but just, recognize where you are on the floor and just stop right there. But no, he's not gonna do it. He's got to take that extra little step or two to get a little closer to him for no freaking reason at all. Just leaving ourselves more vulnerable, more exposed for nothing. And then look what happens. So that's got to be my least favorite thing about tight. But a close second is the tighter you have them play on their on-ball pressure, the more stupid, undisciplined closeouts you get. They charge at him way too hard, then act surprised when they get blown by. Anyway, despite all this, like I said, there are some cases where we do still want to use tight. Now let's go over those. Number one, if it's a 3-point specialist who we're not concerned about hurting us with the drive at all, so like Kyle Korver would be a classic example, that kind of player, we can still set him to tight. Okay, now exception number two. Some of the stretch bigs you see in the league are just like really unathletic. They're just like spot up 3-point shooters. That's the only reason they're out there. Like Ryan Anderson comes to mind. Now, he ain't blown by anybody. He's just there to catch and shoot threes. So somebody like that, that's another exception. We can set that type of player to tight. The only other type of player I would put on tight, and this is the hardest part, but it's the guy who can beat us off the drive. So we are worried about getting beat off the dribble with him, but they're just that lethal of a shooter that we don't really have a choice. We have to take on that extra risk and play him tighter. Obviously, Steph Curry would be the classic example here. It's anybody who, terrifies you when they start to go up for a shot, well, we know who they are. Okay, so besides those 3 exceptions, our go-to, our main setting is going to be moderate. That's just the best for balancing that risk-reward, right? We need to be more cautious against the drive this year because the on-ball defense is suspect, because of the blow-by animations, how easy it is to get sucked into one of them if you're playing too tight. But check this out right here. It's a great clip. Look how you can see that blow-by animation, that freaking swim move cheese. Okay, we can actually see it start to trigger, and it's trying to suck him into it. But now that we have him on moderate, look what happens. He doesn't get sucked into it. He keeps the ball handler in front of him. So clearly this is the best setting for defending the drive. But I was actually pleasantly surprised with the contest levels that you get when they're on moderate. They were better than I thought they would be. So the downside to having them give a little bit more space is not there as much as you would think. You can for sure get a solid contest in most cases when they're on moderate. And we've already talked about the exceptions to that rule, the guys who we do want to put on tight. But other than those special cases, we really want moderate to be our primary setting. Okay, we got that one taken care of. Now let's move on to force direction. Of course, not automatic, so it's really between these two, baseline and middle. So this is really just about, common basketball knowledge. Okay, in this case, all I do is just test to make sure it holds up in the game. And it does. Just like in real life, middle penetration, it just collapses our defense too much. It gives the offense too many options. If we have to choose, we'd rather have him drive to the baseline, because at least then we can use the out-of-bounds lines as extra defenders. So we're able to kind of bottle him up a little more. So he doesn't have as many good angles or as many viable places to go with the ball. Just because the geometry of the whole thing, he's just got fewer good options down there. Okay, so force direction, it's going to be baseline. Alright, my people, that is what it is. Hit me up in the comments. You need anything, you have any questions, whatever. Tap that like button for me one time before you go. Appreciate you guys. We got a bunch more coming up. I'm going to keep pounding away. I'm going to keep testing. So for sure, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Hit those notifications on. Keep yourself up to date with everything. I'm going to see you guys back here real soon on the next edition of 2K with the Popboy.